Grabación.
Que no se vea, para que la cámara no se vea los asientos vacíos. Entonces, si no, sacamos
No, yo prefiero. Espérame, Fran, déjame verlo por cámara. Solo los dos primeros.
Claro, saquemos eso y así le damos una perspectiva más amplia a la...
Okay, now? Thank you. That's much. Okay.
No, it's fine, but no, pero no queremos hacer no queremos hacer nosotros no pedimos que lo hicieran. Si una semana después, 10 días después, no. Nosotros ya lo subimos. Es decir, one week, sábado, domingo. Que nos hicieran, no. Dame una vuelta, dame una vuelta. I prefer the conversation. Here. Vamos a hacer vamos. Tratar de hacer un motor de piedra. Ah, mi audífono.
Ahí estáis lista para escuchar.
Sí, no sé si...
¿Te funciona? Bueno. ¿Veo? Ahí y ahí. No, nosotros con esta cámara ahí. Okay. Okay.
Hi everyone. I hope that people that is on Zoom can hear us, which mean Guillermo, Lorena y Juan. Ustedes tres hablan español, así que buenos días. Si nos están escuchando, ya vamos a empezar la transmisión.
Hola Patricia,
Hola, buen día.
Hola, buenos días. Gracias por la hora, sé que es muy temprano por allí. Ladislao. So please put your headphones. Necesitamos que todos pongan su casco porque si no, no funciona. Yes, you need to put your headphones, yes. Thank you. Es que va a venir un cuarto, Christoph. So good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to have you here, the first panel of the second week. And fortunately, we have some colors on the pavilion this time. So this is a panel, Success Stories for Sustainable Education. As you know, the Paris Agreement explicitly recognizes the importance of advancing education, training, awareness, and public participation on climate change, recognizing education as a tool for empowering individuals and their community means understanding that is the only way to not only change the behavior of current generations, but also to equip future generations with the necessary skills to develop sustainable solutions. One of the challenges of environmental education is that it's not only aimed at students, but at all levels of society and on an ongoing basis, so it's necessary to establish permanent learning formats, but also ways of rescuing community and ancestral knowledge on conservation and mitigation. At the same time, the Paris Agreement calls on government to prioritize investment in the education system to address climate change mitigation, adaptation, and resilience, ensuring that education becomes a key element of the global response to the climate crisis. However, this urgency faced an education system we know in crisis, responding to the 19th century patterns and an increasingly connected society with information that is not always completely accurate. So this panel will discuss these challenges with those wonderful panelists with a special focus on the role of teachers and success stories in environmental education. And to start the panel, I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Ladislaus Changa, who is vice chair of the EPCC. He was elected in July 2023. He is a principal meteorologist, acting director general of the Tanzania Meteorological Authority, and the permanent representative of Tanzania with the World Meteorological Organization. Mr. Changa has been working on meteorological climate and climate change since 1995. At EPCC, Dr. Changa has been assigned specific responsibilities, including to promote the participation of younger scientists, especially from developing countries, in climate change, and in EPCC to liaise with WMO in the World Climate Research Program and to oversee link with the subsidiary bodies under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. Thank you very much, Mr. Ladislao, to be here. We give you the floor.
Hello. Thank you very much. Let me start by expressing our appreciation for being invited to participate in these important events. So the role of the Intergovernmental Panel in Sustainable Education is grounded in the fact that since its establishment back in 1988 by UNEP and the WMO, IPCC has been provided with the responsibility of providing the international community with the best available information, technical and socio-economic information relevant for understanding and enhancing knowledge and awareness about climate change. So that is a ground and linkage between sustainable education and IPCC. And providing the best available science and information is critical for enhancing our awareness and knowledge with regard to climate change. I would like to provide you with some of the success stories since its establishment that are linked to sustainable education. In 1990, IPCC produced the first landmark report, the first assessment report, that actually led to the establishment of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So this is a very strong linkage because we are here because of that history. And then later on, in 1995, the IPCC produced the second assessment report that was critical for informing the establishment of the Kyoto Protocol. Once again, this is an initiative that is directed towards strengthening a reduction in greenhouse gas across the world. And then back in 2001, as we remember that the IPCC produced the third assessment report that was also instrumental in informing and accelerating adaptation initiative. And I would like to, to request your attention more to the fourth assessment report back in 2007 that was very critical for sustainable education, including IPCC being awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, but also the establishment of the IPCC scholarship program following the Nobel Peace Prize that was awarded to IPCC. The IPCC scholarship program that has been a cornerstone for strengthening knowledge and capacity building for scientists and young scientists across developing countries, and particularly in Africa. And of course, the fifth assessment report in 2014 that led to the establishment of the Paris Agreement. Once again, we are implementing the Paris Agreement, and the last sixth assessment report informed the negotiation in the first ever global stocktake. So all this taken together constitute a very significant contribution of IPCC in sustainable education. Thank you very much. I would like to stop there.
Mr. Ladislao Changa, for all the efforts that the IPCC have been doing in order to promote the science for young people from the developing countries and reduce the bridge that we used to have in science, in the access of science in our country, unfortunately. Now I'm going to give the floor to Francisca Cortés-Solari, who is our executive president of Philanthropy Cortés-Solari and Mary Foundation. Francisca is an entrepreneur, environmentalist, and philanthropist who has dedicated her life to integral and sustainable development initiatives in Chile and around the world. With an extensive personal and family background in the world of design and retail, in 2002 she founded Philanthropia Cortés-Solari, a philanthropic project that promotes integral and sustainable development through integral education, climate change mitigation, and biodiversity conservation. For more than 20 years, Francisca has been working through Philanthropy Cortés-Solari on integral education program focused on the educational community in Chile and Latin America, with an experienced character and connection with nature, reaching more than 7,000 young people in teacher each year. Francisca has been an outstanding promoter of climate change mitigation and biodiversity conservation in Latin America through scientific research, environmental education, and outreach projects developed by Mary Foundation, part of the Philanthropy Cortés-Solari. She is a new member of USAN's 15 Pillars of Nature that bring together the world's leading conservation leaders to mobilize resource and technical capacity and strengthen USAN management and vision for conservation. Francisca, you're very welcome.
Gracias, Patti. ¿Se escucha?
Yes,
Perfecto,
we can
gracias.
hear you.
Bueno, primero que nada, agradecer este panel.
So first of all, I wish
Creo
to
que
thank
cada
this
vez que
panel.
vamos metiendo más la educación, la ciencia y vamos vinculando todas las partes, nos vamos enfocando cada vez más en la gran misión.
I think it's really important. It's part of the huge
Nosotros
mission
llevamos
to be
24
able
años
to
trabajando en
be
una
able to
educación
talk about
sostenible.
science.
There is a prediction, no? No. Ah, okay.
Yeah, we have some interference. Sorry. Someone is talking through the...
No escucho nada.
Es que espérame. Karin? Yeah, one.
Karin.
Yeah. We have some interference, sorry. So Francisca was saying that it's really important and part of the mission to include the education on our program. Sí.
Bueno, muchas gracias a todos aquí presentes.
Thank you, everyone.
Creo
all
que
of
el
you
tema
that
de la
here
educación es
today.
algo tremendamente importante que hoy en
Education is
día
essential, as
creo
we know.
que es uno de los principales objetivos o ideas que tenemos que levantar a nivel colectivo.
It's probably one of the main subjects
Cuando
that
hablamos
we
de
need to talk
educación, no
about and
solamente
that we
hablamos
need
de
to try to
educación,
promote.
sino hablamos de conocimiento, de sabiduría también.
When we talk about education, it's not only that, it's also knowledge, the
Llevamos
ancestral knowledge.
24 años
We have been working for
trabajando
24
en
years,
educación en
working
Chile,
in education in Chile,
donde nuestra idea inicial siempre fue educar con la naturaleza y a través de la naturaleza,
From the very beginning,
entendiendo
our goal was to with nature and
entendiendo
through
que somos naturaleza y de que en algún momento como seres humanos no nos desvinculamos de lo primordial de la naturaleza.
understanding that we are part of the nature and at what moment we get divided from the
En
nature.
algún momento nos olvidamos de caminar en la naturaleza, de respirar,
Somewhere
de
and
poder
somehow we
contemplar,
forget
de
the
poder
contemplation of the nature
sorprendernos,
and the
de poder
ability to
entender de que la
get surprised
naturaleza
in the
también
nature.
es algo que nos retroalimenta y finalmente la naturaleza nos sana.
And we forgot that the nature has this huge
Hay muchos
power.
estudios que
to
también
save
hablan de
ourselves.
todos los efectos que hace el poder estar en la naturaleza.
We also have a lot of studies that describe
Es
how
así
the
como
nature is
nosotros en
essential.
Chile levantamos 3
to our
parques
health, and
educativos
this is
que
why
se
in
llaman
Chile
reservas elementales,
We developed 3 natural reserves
que
named reservas
es un
elementales.
modelo o un prototipo, ojalá que pudiéramos escalarlo a otros lugares del mundo,
This is
pero
a
creemos que es
prototype
un prototipo, que es una sala de clase al aire libre,
that wants to be a natural class, let's say,
donde podemos pensar de que a lo mejor podemos tener un territorio de 1 hectárea hasta 20 hectáreas o 100 hectáreas,
proposes to have from 1 hectares to
donde
20
cómo
hectares
podemos y nos hacemos cargo en el fondo del territorio
available not only for
en
everyone, but we take
cuatro
care
dimensiones que
about
son
the
fundamentales
territory.
a la hora de hacer una conservación
And when we
efectiva,
develop a multidimensional
involucrando obviamente
conservation
la
model,
educación y tratando de
including the
cómo ir
education,
encaminando nuestro lenguaje también para llegar a un discurso colectivo.
and when we work on the collective
En estas
together,
3
on the
reservas tenemos un modelo que nos acompaña,
in those 3 reserves, we have a model.
un modelo que hablamos de la importancia obviamente de 4 cuadrantes, hablamos de la importancia de la naturaleza, donde ahí nosotros trabajamos en todas las dinámicas territoriales que tiene la naturaleza,
So we work in each park on the nature, in
es
each
decir, ahí
dynamic, in each
netamente con
variable of the
proyectos
nature.
territoriales, con los objetos de conservación y las amenazas.
We define in each park the species under threat, and we work on the
Luego
territory
también
on that.
trabajamos un eje que creemos que es fundamental. Primero tenemos la tierra, el territorio, pero luego también tenemos la cultura. Creo que la cultura hace una diferenciación enorme a la hora de educar.
So the first dimension is the environmental one, but the second one
Por
is
lo
the
tanto,
social
cuando
one,
entramos a un
with
territorio
the culture
necesitamos
and the
entender
education of in
cuál
each
es la
land.
cultura, la historia, cuáles son sus ritos, cuáles son sus oficios, cuáles son sus valores como cultura.
So before entering each territory, we need to define and understand what are the culture of that territory.
Después también buscamos la parte social de cómo con las las personas de la comunidad buscamos hacer alianzas para poder cumplir objetivos y llevar también, ojalá, todas las comunidades de alumnos más cercanas a cada territorio.
Then we try to work with
Hablamos que
community
estos
in order to
territorios los
understand
tenemos en
where
3
are
latitudes
those communities,
distintas,
because
en la
those
latitud
territories
22 en el
are
desierto de
in the
Atacama, en
latitude
la zona
22,
central, la latitud 33 y la latitud
23
44.
and 44 in the north of Patagonia. So we need to work with the community to bring students to our park.
El otro también dimensión que trabajamos, hablamos de la dimensión natural, hablamos de la social, hablamos de la cultural, y lo otro que hoy día necesitamos poner en la conversación es la sustentabilidad de los territorios en conservación.
The other
Es el gran
dimension that
problema
it's
que hoy
really
día tiene,
important is the
que tenemos como
sustainability
humanidad.
of the
La
conservation.
conservación
And it's one of the main important problem in the
no
conservation.
es fácil, no es económicamente rentable la conservación.
We know that unfortunately the conservation is
Tampoco
not
tenemos
easy,
muchas
it's not
políticas
economically
públicas que nos
sustainable.
ayuden a conservar los
We
territorios.
have a lack of public policy in order to help us to conserve
Por lo
territory.
tanto, estos modelos que nosotros hicimos en Chile, lo que pretenden es acercar la educación formal de la sala de clase
model that we try
con
to
la
create in
educación
Chile
en la
tried to
naturaleza
reduce the bridge
como un
between
lugar,
the
como
formal
un laboratorio
education
natural
and the nature,
para poder hacer
using the
actividades
nature as a natural
donde los
lab
niños se desarrollen en el hacer, en el
in
territorio,
order
con su
to
cultura,
help them to develop
con sus
capacities
paradigmas,
and abilities inside the nature.
Por lo tanto, creo que el modelo es un modelo de éxito.
So it's definitely a successful
Solamente necesitamos
prototype.
avanzar, y esto es un llamado también hacia las personas, la humanidad, los conservacionistas, públicos, privados, de cómo nos hacemos cargo, aunque sea de un pedacito de
So we
tierra
need it is to
en
call at
nuestros
the end
países para
to
poder
all the
conservar
sector in order to see how
algo
can we
del
deal with this kind
territorio,
of
que es
models
lo que
and trying to
nosotros hemos
promote this
hecho
kind
en
of
Chile, esta
exercise not
combinación
only in Chile but
de
in all the world.
conservación territorial, donde lo unimos con una educación intercultural
How can we try to promote models where we try to make
¿cómo se
unions
llama?
between conservation and education,
Intercultural y colectiva.
including the intercultural dimensions too.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Francisca, to explain that beautiful concept that we develop in Chile through the Reservas Elementales. Now I'm going to give the floor to Peter Higgins from the University of Edinburgh, Nature Scott Scientific Advisory Committee Chair from the Scottish Government and board member of the UK Trained Nature Conservation. Mr. Higgins was director of the United Nations University Regional Center of Expertise in Education for Sustainable Development from 2013 to 2024. His research is interdisciplinary and his publications span a diverse range of related topics. He teaches extensively indoors, outdoor, and online, and he is a recipient of the university highest award for teaching, the Chancellor's Award. His Scottish Government advisory roles include chairing the Ministerial Learning for Sustainability Advisory and Implementation Group and ongoing work with LFS Action Plan. He's a board member, as I said, of the Scottish Government Nature Advisory Agents, Nature Scott. He's chair of its Scientific Advisory Committee and member of the UK Trained Nature Conservation Committee. And most of all, he's a friend that likes Chile, I hope. And we really thank you to be here. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Patricia and Francisca, for the invitation. When I got the invitation, I was just delighted, and it just made me very glad to be coming here. So look, the concept note suggests that education and training is problematic with regard to sustainability, and I would agree with that. But I think it's important to recognize that our educational systems don't intend to be unsustainable. They don't intend to convey messages associated with unsustainable behaviors. And it's also important to recognize that formalizing education is a very new thing. In Scotland, for example, the Education Act, which said that kids had to go to school, was only 150 years ago. So before that, kids learned elsewhere. So the concept note again refers to COP29 in Paris. But actually, the call for education, training and public awareness goes right back to the Rio Declaration in 1992, and I'll return to that in a moment. Now, educational research over the last 50 years or so has highlighted that content and knowledge is nothing like enough, just as you heard from Francisca. It's not enough because sustainability education requires that we understand things and processes, but also that we understand the role of the social dimension and, profoundly importantly, nature. And our research shows quite clearly that pro-environmental behaviors are linked directly with time in the natural world. And the way in which I think about it is that education in this manner should be in, through, about and for the natural world. Now, I suppose we've been invited to give stories. Now, let me give you a story, okay? And with all stories, there should be a beginning, a middle, and an end. So let me go to the beginning. So in 1992, a Scottish academic, a great mentor of mine, Professor John Smythe, who was a member of the UK government's IUCN representation panel, was asked to go to Rio. And he and 4 other colleagues, one of whom I still know to this day, wrote Chapter 36 of the Rio Declaration, which argued the need for education, training and public awareness. Now, John was a very influential figure in Scotland. His work continued for some years after this, particularly with WWF Scotland, myself and other colleagues. Now, let me take you forward to 2011. in 2011, we were about to have elections in Scotland, and two colleagues from WWF who'd worked with John decided that they should write to the Scottish political parties to include in their manifestos a commitment to exploring the idea of one planet schools. Now, we all know that our institutions use far more resource than actually they should, so this was the argument. The political party that won, the Scottish National Party, then actually, bizarrely, stuck to its promise, unlike many political parties, and instigated a One Planet Schools advisory group, and I was asked to chair that. This led to the idea of learning for sustainability and a lot of commissioned research that went with it. Not much money, but lots of effort, which showed pretty much what I've just said earlier on, that to get a holistic concept of sustainability understood by learners, you need to think about sustainable development in its conventional form, the social justice element, and the natural world, to bring these three ideas together. This has become a policy entitlement of all learners in Scotland and a requirement of all teachers. So far, so good. It also suggests that there should be a whole institution approach, and that actually we need to maintain this commitment right throughout the whole of the school years of our young people. So this sounds like a real policy success, and indeed, just a week ago today, I was involved in a meeting with others from Scotland, with the European Commissioner for Sustainable Development, looking at ways in which we might embed this approach in other European countries. Now, money. There's no money to do all this stuff. So what do you do when you have no money and you have a policy and you're trying to embed new opportunities within the Scottish or any other education system? Well, my colleagues and I became aware of a British Council programme called Connecting Classrooms, and we applied to them for funding, were successful, and through about the following 8 years we provided in-person, blended and online courses for hundreds of teachers across Scotland, many of whom were working with partner schools in other countries across the world. So when I say we, my colleagues and I, who do I mean? Well, whilst I and one of my colleagues at the University of Edinburgh have been involved throughout, none of this would have happened without others. Those people in our UN recognised Centre for Education for Sustainable Development. And this was established, and again, I could tell you another long story about it, in 2013, following an application to the UN or to UNESCO. Now, it's located within the university, although it isn't a University of Edinburgh centre. So the three staff from that centre include one of the people who wrote the original manifesto call to the Scottish National Party. So there's this connection going back through this story. So we continue to work with British Council, with connecting the people that we're involved in with Connecting Classrooms to this day, but not on that programme. So there's a subplot, like all good stories, that I need to build in here. We've been working with these teachers, as I said, in person, blended and online, but we didn't have great skills in online learning. COVID drove us to do more online, but we were not particularly skillful. So about, again, 10 years ago, a colleague and I decided to set up a university-wide course open to as many students as could take it in sustainability and social responsibility, recognising that actually university students will probably have quite a big influence in the future because of the positions they'll end up in. Now, we didn't know how to do this stuff. We started to do some online work, but it was pretty shaky. But we actually ended up with support within the university and produced a half-decent course, which is running to this day for undergraduates and postgraduates. And it's set to be made much, much larger because it's been selected as one of the university's major challenge courses to try to meet the needs of many more students across the university, not in the hundreds but in the thousands. So we'll see how it goes. So we built more skills in online work through this process. Now, if I can tell you more about how that's embedded, again as a separate discussion later perhaps. So this online experience, together with our work with Connecting Classrooms, helped us to build confidence that we could develop one of these massive online open access courses, MOOCs. And we've done so over the last few years, done some which were relatively small scale, but then when we were approaching the Glasgow COP in 2021, that's when it was, well, that's correct, isn't it? Yeah, 2021, we found that we could get some support from the British Council to build a much bigger approach to this online delivery. So we built a course called Learning for a Sustainable Future, which was provided online for people all over the world, just like these MOOCs are, for free. And then we built one that went with it called Learning for a Sustainable Future, live at COP26 in Glasgow. And the first one ran in sequence. We did the same for the last two COPs, and we're doing the same for this particular COP. And we ran Learning for a Sustainable Future before it. This the success of these MOOCs is quite surprising to us. We've had over 38,000 learners from over 170 countries take them, and they've proven to be very successful indeed. So where are we now? Well, we've gone from the importance of direct involvement with the natural world and the significance of nature in forming positive attitudes to a sustainable future, right through to a global audience of 38,000. Now, has this been a success story? Well, I don't really know. There are elements of it which I think have signs of success, but when you think of the scale of the challenge, it really is massive. So we've, in a way, reluctantly, for someone like myself who's naturally an outdoor environmental educator, we've reluctantly moved into this online digital and learning space because we feel that that is another way we can actually reach audiences. So what I can say is that going back to the roots of our work, the students I work with, the students in schools in Scotland generally seem to be getting the message, perhaps through us, but perhaps through through us, I mean the teaching establishments that they operate within, but perhaps from other sources as well. The young people that I work with are very motivated to do positive things. I also hear from my colleagues in Scottish Government, every time I have a meeting where there's a minister present, they reinforce their commitment to net zero, they've reinforced their commitment to learning for sustainability, and also to the restoration and protection of nature. So the rhetoric is there. They're positive signs, but still there's so much more to do. And the more ways we can be innovative, the more ways we can actually partner together, I think the more we can find opportunities to deliver on this perhaps most important of all agendas associated with sustainability. Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Higgins. Well, I have a lot of questions and comments, but I want to keep them for the end of the interventions. Now I'm going to give the floor to Christophe Moquet. Christophe is head of the Masters in Science Conservation and Valorization of Marine Resources (MAR) at Université Côte d'Azur. With a PhD in marine biology and a passion for the oceans, he works to bring together the scientific, environmental, and socio-economic dimension of the marine world to value and better protect its treasures. Christophe has been promoting blue growth for sustainable development of communities for 10 years in a business school and non-profit organizations. Since 2018, he is the director of the Interdisciplinary and International Program on Marine Resources, Master MAR, at Université Côte d'Azur. Christophe, thank you very much to be here. I give you the floor.
Thank you, Patricia. Well, we saw that with you, with Francisca, for example, talking about the challenge of educating students on social environmental aspects like climate change and ocean conservation, because it's challenging, because we need a lot of different disciplines to work together. And so this is a bit challenging because traditional education generally silo knowledge. And yeah, it's a big challenge for us to adapt education into that. So today I will share with you, with slides, I hope, I will share with you concrete examples from my really local experience with the MSc Mares at Université Côte d'Azur. So it's an interdisciplinary program and international that integrates marine science, conservation, and innovation. And I feel really privileged to be able to do so. So thank you for your invitation. I hope, yeah, thank you. So next slide, please.
No.
Next. So the first thing is that before talking about interdisciplinarity, it's important to know that we need disciplinary programs. In science, we need disciplinary programs in law, for example. But in addition to these programs, at Université Côte d'Azur, we develop around 10 international and interdisciplinary programs to tackle complex issues such as climate change or marine conservation. And one crucial point in interdisciplinary program, next, is that we need to ensure the maintenance of a high level of the core knowledge, science for us. We have to make sure that even if we open up to more disciplines, students are still equipped with high level of science. And it's a challenge because we need to find time to also open up to next conservation, for example. And when we talk about conservation, it's, for example, to assess the different challenges related to the ocean for us, but also to assess the possible solutions which have to be adapted to the different situations, different contexts, as we were saying with Francesca. Because we want to help for decision making adapted to the context. Next, and also we would like to offer students to develop their own solutions through, for example, entrepreneurship, because as you said, we need money also to find solutions. And so in that, our students are part of this interdisciplinarity and international approach. We've got students coming from science, engineering, political science or economy, and they work together. And also currently we've got, so it's small, it's not that large like you. We've got different programs in 2 years, in career transition also in 1 year, or in level up. So we've got something like 65 students, and they come from 25 nationalities, and it's really important they work together. Next. So our program wants to align, next. Our program wants to align on the SDGs, on the Sustainable Development Goals, not only to have a list of colorful icons, and not only for the blue one, SDG 14, but because what we want here is to connect the different problems which are often solutions to each other's. So next. So for example, one class here, Blue Sustainable Development, not only talks about marine science, but also connect it to aspects of developing communities, empowering communities, and reducing inequalities. And I think it's really important because it ensures students to not only understand the science, but as you said, also the socio-economic dimension behind that. Next. So it's a bit pretentious, but I hope that this program can serve as a model for sustainable education, bridging disciplines and fostering collaboration across different sectors. We try our best to combine academic excellence with also some experiential education, practical experience, real-world solutions. So here 2 examples. Fieldworks for developing critical thinking for students. So we are here really lucky on the Côte d'Azur. We've got nice islands immediately close to Cannes and Nice. Or visiting professionals, so partners here. Eranova, for example, is a great partner collecting green macroalgae on green tides to produce alternatives to plastic. And it's really interesting and inspiring to see that we have to connect science and engineering and all of that, sorry, to find solutions. Next. So the idea here is to teach students not only the technical skills, like, for example, data collection, but also the understanding on how the ecosystem fits in the social, environmental dimension. And into that, so the international experience for our students is really important. Once again, to draw solutions which are adapted to a particular context, to the local community context. So I'm proud of our alumni, of course, and these alumni, they show that it works. I think, for example, about Florina and Florence. Both of them are working in an NGO called Coral Guardian. This NGO is based in Indonesia, and they work in developing bottom-up approach of conservation, so with local communities, but also finding good ways to adapt the local communities to the consequence of climate change. And we do that also in the Philippines with Blue Alliance, in the Mediterranean, like here with this Posidonia bottom with Blue Seeds, or in French Polynesia with the Rawi, and to protect marine conservation thanks also to their special way of culture there. And also with startups, we mentioned Eranova before. This is Inalv, it's in Nice. And here's the idea of Inalv. It's a startup based on the growth of microalgae to find alternatives in the feed of our food, the cattle, in order to to make our food security also more sustainable on the long term. Next. We're talking about education, so to maximize impact, we want to go beyond the classroom. And so it means here trying to reach a larger audience. So our Mares to the World initiative engages with communities through educational outreach programs. So with our students, we aim to bring scientific knowledge to a broader audience, as I told you. It can be for kids, for parents, but also for teachers, educators. Next. Because teachers, they often encounter challenges when it comes to sustainability. They can lack appropriate resources. They can have difficulty to integrate these different topics in the curriculum of the kids. And so it's what already we talked a little bit here. And so at our really local level, we try to produce resources to support educators, to provide materials, so with experts, that integrate scientific, socio-economic, but also cultural dimensions. And for example, here what we've got, it's a comic book series with Naya. So she's a journalist, a young journalist. She has a friend, he is a scientist, and they try to understand the problematic of marine conservation. Then next book, it's to retrace the history of the ocean, highlighting climate change. The next one is a board game, which becomes really famous for the teachers in high schools around Nice. So Université Côte d'Azur is trying to distribute these kind of games. We talk about marine conservation, but also the Sustainable Development Goals. So we have questions for the kids, but also for the parents, so they can work together. And we use all of these tools in different events, science fairs, but also events organized with the local community for the city of Nice, for example. And also on the way to UN Ocean Conference, UNOC, which is going to be organized in Nice in June 2025. We of course have a lot of events organized with the regional schools. So to conclude, next, I would like to, of course, once again highlight the fact that interdisciplinary education is crucial, is a key for addressing the climate crisis. Not only the climate crisis, here we're also talking about ocean conservation. It's tightly linked, and I know it's important for Mary. But I would like to finish by mentioning also that in a really specific context that we've got now, we also need to adapt education to modern challenges, such as, for example, developing critical thinking with kids, especially to combat misinformation. We've seen that already, and unfortunately, we may see that more in the near future. And also to ensure a lifelong learning opportunity or opportunities to non-student population. So whatever it's kids or it's the parents, and so it's what we try to do also at our local level. Of course, we are not the only one to do that. It's really local, and that's why I will be really happy to continue to exchange with you and maybe collaborate. Thank you again for giving us the possibility to talk about our local development. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for this beautiful project, Mares.
Thank you, Patricia.
I'm saying properly. We are going to coming back to how you have combined conservation, science, and also formation to the teacher. I didn't know that. That's a great thing also. And now we are going to give the floor to Eric. I don't know if he's here. He's already here. Eric Guillardi. Eric Guillardi is already here through Zoom because it wasn't here at first.
No.
No, he didn't connect. Well, but we have Guillermo Cubillos from Chile, who is the Director of Research, Conservation and Education at the National Zoo of Chile. He is a marine biologist and holds a degree in marine science from the Universidad Católica del Norte, a master's degree in wildlife areas and nature conservation from the University of Chile, and PhD candidate in biodiversity and evolutionary biology program at the University of Valencia, Spain, where he carries out his line of research in the study of the spatial ecology of high Andean flamingo in northern Chile and their biocultural relationship. He's a director, as I said, of research on biodiversity conservation with a focus on native species, being the principal investigator of the conservation program for the Humboldt penguin, native amphibians, short-tailed tintilla, Andean condor, and high Andean flamingo. He is part of the PLIN team of the Recovery, Conservation and Management of Species Plans of the Ministry of Environment, as well as the team for the implementation of the National Bird Conservation Strategy. Collaborator in Chile for the Association of Zoos and Aquarium of America through its program SAVES program. Guillermo, we give you the floor. Eres muy bienvenido. Te damos la palabra.
Gracias, Patricia. Oye, voy a necesitar tu traducción y
I will be there,
quiero
yes.
compartir una presentación, si que me
So
permiten
Guillermo is
habilitar
going
la...
to share a presentation.
Sí,
Ricardo
necesito que me...
is putting the PPT, I think. Ricardo?
Yes.
Yes, he's on that. Ricardo, ¿te falta mucho? Now? Dale, Guillermo.
A ver.
Tiene que compartirlo.
Tienes que compartir la presentación.
Sí, en eso estoy, no me dice, me dice que el anfitrión deshabilitó la función de compartir las pantallas.
Tratemos otra vez y si no lo haces en oral. Let's try another time. Otherwise,
Bueno,
you do like this. ¿Te funciona ahora si lo vuelves a intentar?
no me dice, no me deja, dice que está deshabilitada el compartir. No sé qué.
También si lo pueden hacer funcionar. ¿Now? Ya. Ahora sí debería funcionar.
A ver. Vamos a ver. Ahí sí.
Yeah, now it's working. Thank you.
Déjame ver. No hay problema.
¿Funciona?
Está en eso, pero no me aparece. Ya, ¿sabes qué? Para ganar tiempo voy a partir así nomás. ¿Ya,
Ok.
Patricia?
Ya.
No, venga. Bueno, primero quería dar las gracias por la invitación.
First of all, we want to
Um,
thanks for the invitation.
Sí, y a este panel, y dar las gracias también a Filantropía Cortés a través de la Fundación Mere, quienes formaron parte también de este proyecto que voy a contar.
And also thanks Filantropia Corte Solari institution that was part of this project that is talking about.
Sí. Bueno, la experiencia que les voy a contar es un programa de educación para la conservación denominado Los Guardianes de los Flamencos.
So he's going to talk about a program named Guardian for the Flamingo,
Ujú. Y cuyo objetivo fue vincular a las comunidades locales presentes en la región de Antofagasta y también a algunas escuelas locales.
which purpose was to create a relationship between the local communities of Antofagasta regions and
Mhm.
these species.
Sí, y esto específicamente se desarrolló en la Reserva Nacional Los Flamencos, cuyo paisaje se caracteriza por volcanes y lagunas altoandinas donde viven justamente los flamencos altoandinos.
And this program was developed in the National Reserve of Flamenco, which has a lot of those species in the north of Chile.
Ya. Y bueno, el programa se inició porque básicamente las 3 especies de flamenco que habitan ahí están hoy día seriamente amenazadas en su observación.
And this program was developed mainly because the 3 species that are in those habitats are under threat.
Ajá. Bien, en la línea de acción de la vinculación con las comunidades se desarrollaron distintos planes de acción. El primero tenía que ver con talleres, por ejemplo, operadores turísticos para promover el turismo responsable.
So we developed several lines of work with the local community to create those networking. One of them was the atelier for sustainable tourism.
Ajá. Y también se desarrollaron conversatorios con estos grupos para conocer un poco el contexto social y territorial de los problemas de conservación de estas especies.
We also developed working table with the local community to understand the problems they face with in order to promote the conservation of these species.
Uh-huh. Y por parte de las actividades educativas a los colegios y escuelas rurales se desarrollaron distintas experiencias educativas, como por ejemplo talleres de conocimiento de los flamencos, la exploración al salar y la creación de productos de difusión como fanzines, videos, etc.
And obviously we develop a lot of documents and video and ateliers of education in order to promote the knowledge of these species.
Uh-huh. Y de acuerdo a nuestras evaluaciones, el programa educativo desarrollado en esos 3 años, que fue lo que partimos el año 2022, tuvo un positivo la adquisición de conocimiento por parte del estudiante y también así la valoración hacia los flamencos y sus ecosistemas.
So according to us, the impact of this program on the local communities of young people was really great. They developed a lot of knowledge about these species.
Uh-huh. Y uno de los hitos relevantes después que hicimos ya todos estos años fue el desarrollo del Festival de los Flamencos, que se celebra justo el Día Internacional del Flamenco, el 26 de abril.
So afterward, we decided to develop the International Flamenco Festival on each 26th of April.
Ajá. Y en sus 3 últimas celebraciones ya hemos convocado a más de 500 personas más o menos, y ha sido una instancia donde se ha reunido y se ha hablado de conservación, cultura, cosmovisión, y se han creado lazos de identidad entre los asistentes.
And in those last 3 years, we have had more than 500 assisted, which is a lot, by the way, because it's a very small town, and talking about conservation and cosmovision on the region.
Yeah. Y bueno, esta celebración se llevó a cabo el último año en la Reserva Elemental Puribetar de la Fundación Meri en San Pedro de Atacama.
So the last year the celebration was in the Elemental Reserve of Puribeter that belonged to Philanthropy Cortesolari in the Atacama Desert.
Bueno, para finalizar, nosotros a partir de este programa identificamos varios desafíos. Primero de ellos,
So through this program we identify some challenges. The first one,
entender que las amenazas a la biodiversidad tienen sus orígenes en los conflictos sociales y económicos, por ejemplo, el acceso a la educación.
so first of all understand that maybe one of the main threats of the species are the social conflict. For example, the poverty, the inequality.
Sí. Por otra parte, el acceso o los trabajos en zonas tan aisladas del territorio chileno como esto también es un desafío importante para desarrollar programas educativos de esta naturaleza.
Secondly, the fact that we have those very large territory with some difficulties to access on those territory is another challenge to develop this conservation program.
Sí, y otro también es, como también mencionaron anteriormente, es contar con los recursos humanos y económicos para el desarrollo e implementación de este tipo de programas.
And obviously,
Bueno, y para esto
sorry,
sí,
and obviously the third challenge is a lack of human resources and economic resources.
Para esto se sugiere articular acciones colaborativas tanto del sector público como del sector privado.
This is why we really need collaborative actions between the public and private sector.
Ujú. Por último, para dejar como reflexiones la discusión, dada esta experiencia, nosotros pensamos que se deben crear instancias de participación para la comunidad con el fin de involucrarla en las decisiones que tomen sobre sus territorios.
So as a reflection, we believe that we need to develop local moments with the community in order to let them to be part of the common decision that we take.
Ujú. Y que estas experiencias puedan llegar a los tomadores de decisiones, no solo del sector público y privado, sino también a las comunidades locales con el fin de elaborar políticas educativas en pro de la conservación de los flamencos andinos en este caso.
So we believe that local communities need to be included in the policy maker decisions, including them in how are we going to develop the educational program.
Eso, muchas gracias Patricia. Solamente para finalizar agradecer a Filantropía también por el desarrollo y apoyo a CONAF, ZETACOG y al programa SAFE Flamenco Andinos.
So thank you, Guillermo. He was saying thank you for Filantropía, CONAF, CONTAGEF, and SAFE. So thank you very much, Guillermo. It's a very
Gracias.
beautiful and important example of a local conservation program that allow us to protect the Andean flamenco, a fundamental and essential species. Now we are going to give the floor to Lorena González Muñoz. I saw Lorena a few minutes ago. Lorena was an outstanding participant in the Caserta Foundation's program Profes en Red, Teacher in Red. She has more than 25 years of teaching and management experience in the public and private sector, and for the last 10 years she has been a principal of public educational establishment as a part of the Alta Dirección Pública, the national local system to hire people in the national administration. With a focus on improving the quality and equity of education, she has studied integral leadership, educational management, neuropedagogy, and human rights, which allow her to design innovative strategies. Her holistic vision of leadership fosters educational and community focus on the well-being of students, teachers, and family, promoting collaborative development, active participation, and last but not least, fostering the search for meaning and spirituality. Lorena, ¿nos puedes escuchar?
Sí, los puedo escuchar y también quería ver si puedo presentar, que también tengo una presentación. Voy a ver si puedo compartir pantalla.
Entiendo que la pantalla ya está desbloqueada. She's have a presentation too, and normally she could be able to present. Yeah, we can see podemos ver tu slide. We can see your slide, Lorena.
I'll do it in English.
Okay, Lorena.
So, thank you very much. I'm very glad and very happy to be here today. And I want to share with you my professional development and learning as a graduate of a program by Fundación Caserta that is called Profes in Red. In this program, I learned that educators are agents of change, capable of transforming and inspiring their students on a deeper, even spiritual level by reviving in them the joy of living. I learned that our work transcends the walls of the classroom and that through teaching we can inspire future generations to reconnect with what is essential: our human nature and our connection to the planet. As many of you know, education today faces a profound dilemma. When we look towards the future, it becomes clear that we need something more than educational models of the past, which were built for industrialized societies. These models emphasized memorization, discipline, and conformity, as well as basic skills like reading, writing, and arithmetic, skills that suited the needs of the time. Today, however, it is no longer enough to transmit technical knowledge or functional skills. The world needs educators who recognize themselves as agents of change. Critical thinking, digital competences, socio-emotional intelligence, adaptability, and a global and environmental consciousness are now essential for navigating life in the 21st century. More than ever, we need educators who can understand the profound connection between education, nature, and social transformation. Educators who can help future generations remember something that we as human beings have forgotten, that we are part of nature. As Francisca Cortés Solari, founder of Fundación Caserta and Filantropía Cortés Solari has said, teachers must help their students remember their universal memory, from the ego to the echo. During my experience in Prophecy in Red, I connected deeply with this vision. I learned and grasped practical tools and conceptual frameworks that reshaped my understanding of education. And this included the map of development, a multidimensional framework that integrates learning across the body, emotions, mind, and spirituality. Socio-emotional competences essential for teaching empathy, fostering a sense of belonging and joy in life, and cultivating a deep connection with nature and others. Ethical and intercultural competences. This enabled me to approach teaching with love and spirituality, helping students see themselves as part of something greater. The four pillars of education: learning to know, learning to live together, learning to be, and learning to do. Finally, the role of innovative education in inspiring students and teaching them how to act in the world, both in natural and urban settings. As a graduate of Prophecy in Red, I can share with you that this process not only transformed me as an educator and leader, but also as a person. This program reminded me that educators are not mere transmitters of knowledge. We are guides, agents of change, able to transform lives and entire communities. Education is about remembering that we are part of nature, remembering that living in a community has profound values. Likewise, every action we perform seeks transcendence. It helps us to connect to what is essential, respect others for who they are, for what they do, and the impact they can cause in the environment. From this perspective, Francisca Cortés Solari has pointed out that the educator becomes a guide, a facilitator, who helps students retrieve the forgotten memory, related to our ancestors and their connection with the world. This experience is not limited to my own context. The strategies and tools shared in Prophecy in Red can inspire similar educational programs anywhere in the world. My invitation to you today is to consider how these practices could be implemented in your communities, tailored to the realities and challenges of your countries. On this journey, ancestral knowledge offers an invaluable compass. The lives and teachings of those who inhabited the earth generations ago, and even those from just a few decades ago, hold lessons that can guide us. These teachings, still present in the daily practices of many communities, show us how to live in harmony with the planet and ourselves. We must look forward, we must look back to move forward. Fundación Caserta deeply believes in this transformative vision of education, and so do I. I have acquired new tools to improve my educational leadership that is now based on love. Love that transcends human relationships and extends to the earth and its natural environment. Through our actions, we can truly transform communities. The importance of this conversation is enhanced in the context of COP29, where we are gathered to share successful stories in sustainable education. Our planet urgently needs us to take these stories beyond the classroom and turn them into global movements. Education is not just a tool, it is the access that supports our capacity to build a sustainable future. However, this requires more than growing in knowledge and understanding. We have to create integral institutions that offer emotional security, love, and respect, providing places where teachers and students feel they are part of a meaningful place. In summation, and to conclude, if we can help this generation of students to deeply develop our ancestral memories related to spiritual connection with nature, we will have planted the seeds for a more conscious, fair, and resilient beings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lorena, to share with us this beautiful experience in Profes en Red with all your experiment there. Now we are going to give the floor to Juan Davila Verdun, founder and managing director of FutureEd. Juan is the founder and managing director of FutureEd, as I just said, an international educational organization born in Monaco and developed with passion in the UK, founded to contribute to achievement of the UN Agenda 2030. Juan, I don't know if you can hear us. I saw you.
Yes, I can.
Okay, you are very welcome, and we give you the floor.
Thank you very much, Patricia, for the introduction. It's a bit strange to be on this side, back at home, taking into account that a few days I was with you there in Baku in Azerbaijan, also participating of the COP. Well, thank you, everybody. I was listening to the interventions and I was thinking about what we do in FutureEd. FutureEd started in the middle of the pandemic in 2020 because we thought that higher education needed a sort of revamping, a sort of redesigning. There were a lot of programs focused on early education, non-formal education, primary and secondary education, but university education had very little attention in terms of how professionals are formed and trained in sustainability. We have seen in the numbers in Latin America, for example, where we have encountered that with the bumping of the last global pandemic, the availability of courses and trainings in Spanish was less than 10%, was 7% in online training platforms like Coursera, EDX, and compared to other languages like Arabic. We also have been observing that in Latin America, according to available information from UNESCO Institute on Latin American Training and Academic Research, that only 10% of the students in Latin America from the public and the private sectors are able to graduate from universities. Also, we have realized that the average that it takes to a student to complete undergrad program is a lot longer. Whether in Europe, in United States, in other regions of the world, it takes between 3 to 4 years for a student to graduate, 3 years full-time, 4 years part-time. In Latin America, the average can go from 7 to 9 years. In those terms, the reason is what happened with those students that are unable to graduate, are unable to commit 7 to 9 years just to complete an undergrad program in Latin America, and how they are reinventing themselves to incorporate into society. We believe that in the Agenda 2030, when we are talking about sustainability, we have to talk about the use of the resources that we already have, and academic design, making academic design more sustainable, more cost efficient, more inclusive, but as well more able to catch the essence of the discussions in science is fundamental. And for that, we started a series of programs in partnership with 10 universities in Latin America from the public and the private sector. And we have developed an online platform where we are currently developing 5 credentials, micro credentials for teachers in partnership with these universities, in which we are assessing how we can redesign academic programs for make it available for students from different socioeconomic backgrounds that didn't have access to higher education before, but as well how to redesign the academic contents that are available in traditional careers to include elements of sustainability. So far, since 2021, we have more than 30,000 students in all Latin America. And we have to say that this year, just in Argentina, we have included a program with 5,000 students from different provinces in the country. So we also have participated together with the World Bank and with the IMF and UNESCO and the BID of conversations back in February about the importance of making sure that we support the academic redesign of university careers looking at the future. Because if we don't have enough professionals to promote, for example, climate finance or entrepreneurship, or like we were discussing a few days ago about energetic transition, then the question is how it's going to be going to the future. Although our populations are growing, and there has been more students than 20 years ago, according to figures that we have analyzed, it is true that these numbers are not enough and are not comparable to the amount of the demographic growth that we are observing. So although we have more professionals, this is kind of liquidated in the proportion of the growth of the populations in some countries in Latin America. At the same time, we have observed that in the decision making of local, regional, and national parliaments, there is some lack of training in academic formation and sustainability in the way in how political decisions, political policies are formed or are designed. We have observed that in some countries, between 30 to 50% of the members of the parliaments do not have university degrees. Then we have to think in how we are conceiving the policies that we need to build up more sustainable societies. Having said this, our path hasn't been easy until now in the past 3 years, but we are very proud that we are currently working with 64 professors from 15 countries developing these qualifications. The partnerships with universities are quite successful, but it's a construction in terms of seeing priorities of the universities on changing paradigms and to helping them to see sustainability not only as something that it has to be included as a subject within a career, but in the way in how careers are designed from the core to have more professionals trained in these topics. And being more prepared to the future. But this is, having said, using resources that already exist. So until here my presentation, I just wanted to share some numbers and the need about working on higher education for sustainability from different angles and perspective, and addressing a bit the elephant of the room about what is sometimes the situation in Latin America, which it is ignored. But like Lorena has said before, programs like Profes and Red, that is the training of trainers, in this case for primary and secondary education, are essential. We also have to work about how scientific knowledge is built up within the universities, make it more accessible, but at the same time more time efficient. We cannot allow that the students take between 7 to 9 years to complete an undergrad career, because in that way we're going to pay the economical consequences of that, but as well in demography and in terms of the decision making. And here we're going to be touching more than one SDG than the SDG 4. We're going to be talking about SDG 11, we're going to be talking about SDG 8, we're going to be talking about SDG 12. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Juan, for what would you do every day through Future Ed. Now I'm going to give the floor to Eric Giliardi, President of Office for Climate Education of UNESCO. Eric, I saw you there. Eric is a climate scientist at l'Océan IPHSL in France and professor of climate science at NCAS Climate University of Reading in the UK. He has published over 100 papers in peer-reviewed journals on topics including tropical climate variability, El Niño, oceans and climate, decade variability and predictability, climate change, multimodal analysis, and state-of-the-art climate model development and software infrastructure. He has an active public outreach activities, and he is promoting the uptake of science study in the climate science community. He is currently president of the Office for Climate Education under the auspice of UNESCO, which develops climate change education resources and professional development for teachers. He is an appointed member of the CNRS Ethics Committee and of the French National Education Scientific Council. Eric, can you hear us?
Yes, hello Patricia, hello everybody. I hope you can hear me all right. Wonderful. So thank you again for this invitation to this very exciting event. I'm really sorry I cannot be with you, but technology makes it possible to all share our views on this important topic. Clearly we heard quite inspiring words on the role of education. It's really my pleasure to share some thoughts from my perspective and also share with you what we do at the Office for Climate Education. So as a climate scientist and IPCC lead author, I know that the human impact on the climate is clear and has been so for more than 30 years. But in the meantime, climate change has moved from science into society to become one of our defining environmental challenge. However, science alone cannot guide us on how to address this crisis. This is also how we envision living together, what we collectively value, the level of risk we're prepared to assume. So it's really about which type of society we want. This is why it is also, and maybe foremost, about education. So crisis means both threat and opportunity. And if the threat cannot be ignored by us adults, and the COP is a place to discuss what we do in the face of this threat, we have a moral responsibility when it comes to education to develop a positive narrative for the young generation. The doom and gloom story, I believe, is too often the only narrative they are offered, delivered via simplistic indicators, a lack of science understanding, or a lack of transformative action. But the good news, and we heard a few examples already, that climate change education comes from unique and exciting opportunities. First, an opportunity to learn about science in general, and climate science in particular, of course drawing from the best available sources such as IPCC reports. But it's also, and we heard Lorena mention that, I think it's really important, it's an opportunity to learn about life skills, humanities, global citizenship, climate justice. providing the systemic perspective to the young generation, as for example encapsulated in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We cannot separate those as different goals. It's also an opportunity to encourage critical minds, hopeful hearts, and able hands to turn anxiety into agency. So, of course, we need to empower educators, that has been said already, to provide that young generation with the robust understanding of climate change and the skills to act as I was just mentioning, to act as a global citizen in our changing world. This also means clear and explicit educational goals and an articulated vision of the different subjects in the classroom. And that has to be organized by the local educational teams. And of course, for that, we need high-quality initial and service teacher professional development. So it is really to empower primary and secondary teachers worldwide for this ambitious and inspiring mission that the Office for Climate Education, the OCE, was created 6 years ago now, bridging the gap between the climate scientists and the educators. This is really our two legs, if you like. So the OCE develops sets of pedagogical resources based on IPCC reports, summary for teachers, pedagogical guides, multimedia resources, and that are all both scientifically and pedagogically validated in different countries, all translated in several languages, fully available to teachers. The OCE also offers the associated teacher professional development opportunities and facilitates network of practice worldwide. 2 days ago happened the 4th edition of the Teachers COP, developed by OCE, but now run with a number of partners, and this year we have the pleasure to collaborate with the VVOB on developing this Teachers COP. And the Teachers COP is a way of bringing the teachers together, proposing topics that are then presented at policymakers at COP. It's also a way for teachers to exchange with their colleagues on what they do, and sometimes they can feel a bit lonely. So it's really an opportunity for them to develop and test their ideas as educators on this difficult topic. So also as a pivotal co-coordinator of the newly established Greening Education Partnership, championed by the EU, whose secretary is done by UNESCO. So OCE serves as a bridge between that global landscape of science and the specific needs of primary and secondary school locally. It's this local weaving, if you like, with both the example you take on climate change, but also the specific needs of the local pedagogy is absolutely essential, so you can develop actions that go to scale, which is really at the heart of what the office is trying to do. So developing pilot project and seeding capacity building for education system worldwide is really what the OCE does. Of course, one of the first and foremost example of what we do is the ALEC project in Latin America that started 5 years ago and has allowed to empower thousands of teacher and teacher trainers and counting, of course, but also has enabled several states in Mexico and Colombia to change their curricula and really develop quality climate change education for all, not just in a few schools. So I really think that inspired by the Paris Agreement, the time for quality climate change education has come. And as Stefania Giannini, the Assistant Director General for Education at UNESCO, reminds us regularly, education is probably the most transformational climate adaptation action. So I'm really excited about what is happening. A lot of countries, a lot of actors are joining forces, seeing what works. There's a lot of science work also being done in climate education. We know what things that work, having that unique combination of the head, the heart, and the hand, and leading to action. So that's really, it's a big challenge for many educational systems, but I think we have the energy and the vision to achieve that. So on that, I'll close, and thank you again so much for this invitation. I look forward for the exchange.
Thank you very, very much, Eric. So before starting the question, I want to thank you everyone. It has been a wonderful panel with different kind of experience, local, university and so on, and public policy makers also. But I want to know first of all if the public has a question or if we start the conversation. So I offer to the public the floor if you eventually have some question. If not, yes, you, please.
Hello? Yeah. Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, I'm very happy to attend this conversation, the panel. My interest went on the education as far as climate is concerned. And this was, my question goes to, I don't know, all of them, all of you, or the professor who was talking about the e-learning. After the pandemic that you had established e-learning in your area. My question is, what was the challenge faced during the process, and how do you, how can you advise this to the areas, to the remote areas, maybe like the developing countries where there is limited resource in terms of computer or internet? Yeah, how do you advise this? And another question, which tool did you use for monitoring the effectiveness of the process? Thank you.
Start with the tricky ones first, eh? I mentioned the pandemic because everybody knows what was happening within education, that young people, students in universities were not present anymore within their learning contexts. And so it more than anything, it provided us with a prod to make sure that we thought about how could we work with people in more remote environments and larger numbers of people. The way in which we approached this was within the university. It was through our digital learning specialists who were already there. So what had to happen was we built approaches which used the technology we already had, which was pretty shaky. And of course, what we have now is very different indeed. The bigger project to do with the teachers across Scotland, which was the next level when we worked with those, that relied upon what facilities they had in their schools, which were often not very good. So we made sure that we could use phones, that we could communicate, and we could run courses that use people's mobile phones. And then the MOOCs that we've developed and we're using at the moment, that's the Learning for a Sustainable Future at COP. These are, again, using mobile phone technology as well as people being able to use their home computers. So you should be able to get them, and if not, we'll speak afterwards about that. In terms of monitoring the effectiveness of these, the way in which we've done this is because we've been working with Coursera more recently. They have assessment tools that are built in within their programs, and so they ask the effectiveness of the programs of the people that they're working with. And I should just, who are signed up to the MOOCs, what I should just say though is that the way in which they're designed is not to just give information, because you've heard from everybody else as well as me, that doesn't work. You provide information, you provide context, but you must find ways of engaging. So the tools, if you join either of the courses, they're open, and they'll continue to be open for months yet. They encourage people to join in an online way where they can collaborate in discussion, fora, etc. So they've got really quite high approvals from the people who are involved as learners through that process of engaging them directly in a way in which isn't about just giving information. I hope that helps a bit. Thank you.
Voilà. Thank you, Pete. I was thinking in a question for all of you maybe, and it seems that increasing coverage of education damage the quality of education in terms of the access of the nature, because the school remain that place where everything is contained proper and grammar. At least this is what we see probably in the developed countries. So how can we change that? And I wish maybe to start with Guillermo, and I'm going to translate him, because Guillermo brings students in the Salar de Atacama. He explained them what is happening to the flamenco, and maybe one of the most worrying things is that those kids have never seen the flamenco before. Considering that they just live there, so something is happening. They are not in the city, they are not in the capital of the countries, but they still don't know their habitat. So there is a bridge that we need to cover. Guillermo estaba haciendo la siguiente pregunta, que considerando que pareciera ser que entre más aumenta la cobertura en educación, se hace en desmedro de la calidad de la educación en el sentido del acceso a la naturaleza, y queríamos partir contigo un poco comentando lo que tú has observado de aquellos estudiantes de San Pedro de Atacama que a veces nunca han tenido acceso a los flamencos, a los salares, y que a través de estos programas logran tenerlos, y cuál ha sido tu experiencia en la materia. No sé si nos escuchas.
Sí, perfecto. Gracias, Patricia. Sí, es un muy buen ejemplo que has dado. Nosotros, en la experiencia que hemos tenido en la Reserva Nacional de los Flamencos, justamente que a pesar de ser localidades y comunas muy cercas, están muy cerca de la naturaleza.
Voy a traducir. The experience that Guillermo has is that despite this is a very close place to the National Reserve,
hay niños y familias que jamás han visto un flamenco, jamás han visto un salar, siendo que están viviendo a 50 o 40 kilómetros del lugar. Entonces, eso nos habla un poco de la desconexión que existe hoy en día respecto de las personas que viven en esos lugares, respecto a los lugares que ellos cohabitan junto a la naturaleza.
So we found family that had never, Wall's family that had never visited the salars and the flamingo, even if they live 40 kilometers away. And that talk about the disconnection we have with our ecosystem.
Exactamente. Y es complejo porque finalmente los niños era la primera vez que veían un flamenco a través de este programa educativo, siendo que las escuelas locales tampoco lo fomentan. Entonces, siento que, bueno, por una parte estos programas puedan ayudar, pero creo que también hay una tarea pendiente por parte de los gobiernos, ¿verdad?, o los que se encargan de las políticas educativas, de generar instancias de conexión con la naturaleza y de vínculo con el entorno.
So this is a challenge because it means that the local schools has never promote this kind of knowledge, and obviously it's a challenge for the national government to do so. Muchas gracias,
sí.
Guillermo.
Bueno,
¿Sí?
Gracias.
¿Sigue? ¿Perdona? No, okay.
No, estamos bien, gracias.
Thank you. So I would like to do the same question to you, Pete, and also to you, Christoph, because at university you try to combine this. But I'm thinking that we should start this at school, obviously. So how do you see that?
If you're looking at me because of schools, I suppose I should say that although we have a model which says that young people need to engage with the natural world, it's very hard to find time and space in the curriculum within the school day to do so. But what we've been doing, as you've heard from other panelists, is we've been trying to work with teachers to give them the confidence to do so, and so they don't feel that the outside is a dangerous place, that they feel comfortable to work in outdoor environments. And we've built teaching approaches and guidance that allow them to do so within the period of a school within a school period of, say, 40 minutes. So how do you use what's directly outside your door? How do you use something that's just a little bit farther away? And so we've built a model around, if you like, concentric circles where the teacher might develop more confidence to go to farther afield eventually. But we see exactly that same separation you've just heard about, where we've got young people and adults who just haven't seen parts of the natural world. At university level, at the university, I work on specific programs which are about training people to use the outdoors, master's programs in outdoor environmental education. And another thing that the University of Edinburgh's done is it has some large areas of land which it's partnering with or as bought to sequester carbon, and we take the students out to those to help them to understand that they can they plant a tree, they start to learn the issues to do with climate change associated with those activities. So we try to build practical activities in as much as we can, but it's very difficult at university level to do that because of the tightness of the structure as well. So it's a long, slow process, but we're all trying to do it, just as you've heard from others.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I would like to come back on this idea of disconnection. We heard that just before. It's something that we all see. For example, we are partnering with a local NGO called Les Petits Débrouillards, so it's really typically French, the name. But the city of Nice proposed this NGO to have their offices in the city center, and they decided to go in the outer part of the city, in places where actually teenagers or young people are just 1 kilometer from the sea or 2 kilometers from the sea, but they never go there. They don't even know that there are fantastic stuff there because they are really, again, disconnected to the beauty of nature. So this is not something that we can directly tackle in the master program because we obviously have students who had the chance to reach us, but we help teachers, not to change the whole curricula, of course we cannot do that, but to offer them some opportunities, some key moments when we visit the classes. For example, we organize say 40 minutes, 1 hour, 30 minutes, where we try to show them the beauty of nature and also that everything is combined, that they can have an impact, once again, with this Mares to the World initiative. So once again, it's really local what we're doing, but I guess we're all trying to do the same, to reconnect people who haven't had the chance to be connected to nature.
Mr. Ladislao, I have a last question. This is maybe the most difficult question, but we have discussed in other panels about the need to integrate or to try to integrate as possible it is the knowledge in science and to facilitate the message to the rest of the educators. So in your role as EPCC Vice Chair, as focal point in education, what are the roadmap that you have in your institution in order to try to facilitate the access of science for the not only young people but also the teachers and professors?
Yeah, thank you very much, and let me appreciate for the discussion that has been going on for the last 1 hour. And with regard to the roadmap in terms of integrating different knowledge, including the indigenous knowledge, we have seen that, and it is the priority of IPCC to incorporate and integrate indigenous knowledge in our processes. So this has been evidenced by the scoping meeting that took place some few months ago, where we did scope this special report on climate change and cities and brought together experts, practitioners, scientists, and indigenous people to provide their input in terms of informing the outline of the IPCC special report on climate change and cities. So it is our priority to incorporate indigenous knowledge in the 7th assessment cycle. So just to give you confidence in that. Seventh assessment cycle will be remembered by the extent and scope to which various entities have been included. So in terms of our major priority of strengthening inclusivity, including the indigenous people.
Very much to all of you. It has been a very, very interesting panel. You can find all these video in www.fcs.tv. So thank you again, everyone. Y muchas gracias a los que han estado participando en Zoom desde Chile. Un abrazo para ellos. And we are going to take a picture now of the whole group here. Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias por la invitación.
Thank you very much.